I've come down to the boat today to begin the installation of a new tiller pilot. I've had one for all the boats we've been on really, and some of them are not as reliable as one would hope, and we've got a good example down here, ST2000 Plus, which I've got two of these on the boat. One of them gave out at a very inopportune moment when I was coming into Bembridge, nearly took my head off with the boom as the boat came around unexpectedly, which wasn't good. And then the other day I came back from Brighton Marina in quite a strong breeze, and as I set the tiller pilot up to auto helm and I was on my own, it just wouldn't work. That was not good news, and for a kind of 8 or 9 hour sail. Anyway, I did have this spare one which is here, which is still running, but I just thought, we're hoping to go to Cherbourg in a few weeks time. I just really got to upgrade it because I do want to sail single-handed, reasonably often. And so it's really quite important to me. So what I've done is to buy Raymarine's EV-100 series tiller pilot, which is these two boxes here. We've got the P70S controller, and that's going to go up here on this panel, as one would probably expect. And there's obviously the actual drive unit here, which is a lot kind of more simple and smaller than the ST2000. And then if we go down below, the other component is this device, which is the piece that actually decides which way the boat's going to go. It's got the whole kind of gimbal and directional stuff going on, and that's going to go in this little space in this cupboard here in the corner. So that should go in like that, tucked up out of the way, and then I've got to route the various bits and pieces through behind my electrical panel, which I've opened up here, and then it's got to be routed into the rest of it, all connected up and put together. And I will just point out that I'm not going to do all this on my own. I'm doing the some of the grunt work to kind of set stuff up and try and make it kind of get the components in place, but majority of the cabling stuff's going to be done by my electrician, because it's just a bit beyond me, I think, certainly in the time. Anyway, I thought I should give you a bit of a heads up, show you what I'm doing, and see if it makes any sense. So one of the first things is making sense of this little diagram and putting together the bits and pieces. So we've got these little gasket things here that go in. It goes in under here, I think. Fairly straightforward, I believe. Make sure it all fits together in the way it's supposed to, and then yeah, that sits on there like that. I think it's really more to go. And this sitting here and mounted to this directional arrow. This directional control, and clips on. Make sure that will work. It's got to go in the cupboard here. So I'm going to move that to the back, set it up there, but I want to get it so that although you can lift the mount off its bracket, I want to be able to put the thing on, clip it in place with that on there, so that should be okay, I think, about there. Right.
1.0 degrees, 0.5 degrees.
Look at that.
0.1 degrees, 0.3 degrees, 0.2 degrees.
That's pretty good to me.
2.1 degrees. 2.2 degrees.
Let's shut that up.
2.3 degrees.
Right. So, got to make sure I've got that. Absolutely as level as I can. The boat sitting on her mooring should be level. Absolutely calm. The C-torque cable should be up in here. The other end is obviously going to go through the bulkhead, maybe to the back slightly, but I'm just going to work that out because it's going to be got to go from there through and then into this void, which doesn't really have anything in it, and then into here somewhere. So it should be pretty straightforward. So yeah, we're getting there. I've got the cable in at this end down here, and drilled a hole through, and then I've come back round. There it is out the other end, and the screws are now in place. There we go. I've got it all together now. It's all fairly straightforward. Putting it in place. I'm just going to connect this C-torque cable. Goes in there. Just clips around. Straightforward. And then this should hopefully sit on there. There we are. All good. Yeah, should be fine. That's number one. As I said, I'm not going to attempt the cabling itself. There's a connector for that that eventually goes to the, I think it's called the backbone, and then it's going to be run through the heads or behind the heads, and the other unit, the I think it's the AU unit, ends up behind that bulkhead. So there's a relatively shorter run down to the stern of the boat, and to join them in between, so that's the AU unit that has to go in. It kind of powers the actual it's the actuator control unit, so it must be to power and control this. And then obviously the P70, which is going up here, the connectors for that. So this, because these are older units, this piece here is a converter. It's not actually the kind of regular backbone, I don't think, but I'm going to leave this all to my electrician. So this will have to be fed through. I don't think we can just tap into one of these. It would be really neat if we could, but it's possible. And then it's got to go back down through here and ends up with this lot somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it does connect with the AIS unit and bits and pieces. So, and obviously with the chart plotter, which is also up on the deck. So, yeah, that's the way it's all going to be, hopefully. So, the next challenge is to mount this ACU unit behind that bulkhead there in the heads, as instructed by my electrician. There it is. I'm just going to take that down into the cockpit locker, which I've now emptied, and fuel tank. So plan is, you can get a bit of sense of what we're looking at here. Yeah, it's fuel tank and stuff, all the bits and pieces, and there's a nice little spot up the top here, which I'm going to use to mount it. It's going to go up there, and then that is my route mousing line, etc., back through to the main electrical distribution board, etc., where it's all going to run through to, and then from here it will be the power cable will go through to the back of the locker. Okay, so yeah, I've got the ACU-100, I think it is, in up here, and all ready for the electrician to do his business, because he can take the cover off, and it's all there to be connected. Not easy in this space, but you know, it should be fine. Right, so next thing I'm going to do is the nice head unit, P70S. So that means I've got to cut a hole in that panel for it to fit, which is fine. I've got all the bits. Hopefully I've got a circular hole cutter here, which I used for the originals, the ones that are in there already, and I've got a wooden board to do it on, so it should be fairly straightforward. It's a fantastic day out here, but really probably only on the water. There is what I think is called a sea fret. Beautiful though. Fog coming in off the sea, blisters going out. So I'm just, I've taken the old instruments out of the binnacle here, and I'm just measuring up to cut my main hole for the P70S. So that's what I'm doing here, just scoring the perspex to drill it in a minute out on the deck. So we're getting there with this. Just got to make sure we get this spot on, central hole there, on the edges lined up nicely, and then I need to make these pilot hole marks just so that for drilling the corner holes, make sure there's a in the right spot. Yeah, they're probably visible. Okay. Right. Now we cool. Ooh. Through. Slightly worrying. It's all good. Yep, got a hole. Needs to be cleaned up. And there's a nice trade winds 35 going by. Yes, that's probably the worst bit, or one of the scariest bits doing that. Anyway, it's all done. Oh well, it's coming on. Quite good really, quite exciting. Hopefully I'll get at least the main components in place, even if not the wiring. I am kind of quietly confident that the P70S instrument I can connect to this kind of C-Talk backbone thing that's connects my older instruments as well. It does look as if it's designed to do that. So and there was a spare socket for it, so with a bit of luck that will just make one of the jobs my electrician's got to do a little bit easier. And now for lunch. Okay, so I have wired it all up at the back here. There's obviously going to be a lot of, it's not very easy to see with this camera, but there's obviously going to be a lot to do to make it work properly. And this, I kind of connected it to the connections I've got behind the panel, but I realized that actually these 4 instruments all connect to my chart plotter, which goes here, but they don't have any other C-Talk connections to anywhere else in the boat. So I think we've still got to run a C-Talk cable from the back of the connector behind here down to the new ACU-100, which I've just put into the fuel tank. So that's all got to happen. And then the last thing, I mean, so most of it's done in there. I've still got to work out how I'm going to connect the power for the actual actuator here, the actual device that pushes the tiller. So that's another bit of a job to look at, to see where that's going to happen. And yeah, so I mean, day's turned out very nice. The fog has pretty much lifted, I think. Sea breeze has come in, looking nice. Right, so I've got to go and do some measurements now, make sure that I have got what I need in terms of the right connections to the actual helm. So what I've discovered is that the helm, the tiller, is not in the right, this connector here, it might work for the ST2000 Plus, but it's not in the right place for the new EV-100. And so I've got to actually make this arm longer, or buy another, I'll get another piece of metal. I'll probably keep this in the same place for the original system. And also the socket is not, it's not far enough away from the rudder post, and so I've got to create a new socket. So somebody going past. I've got to put another socket in about here probably, which is fine. Then the two systems will remain active. The ST2000 will just remain as a backup. So what I've discovered is that distance from the rudder post to this pin needs to be 460 mil for the new system. It's a bit difficult to be exactly sure about where the rudder post is, but it's going to be there. So currently we're looking at 51 centimeters to the existing one, and it needs to be 56 centimeters, 560. Sorry, 460. I'm getting myself very confused here. Hang on a sec. So it's actually got to be shorter. Got to be down here. Which is actually there. Okay, 460. That might change everything, because that would mean the new socket would probably be better on this side, and that would make the power supply run shorter as well, which would be a good thing. So I'm going to have to change this post so that it comes down more steeply and across, so that's okay. To be in line with that. That's all right. Okay, so I shall now do some measurements. Well, it's turned into a breezy afternoon with a decent sea breeze. I've kind of done everything I can do today. I know now that the tiller is going to be driven from the port side of the boat. The whole project gets a lot easier doing that in terms of connections especially. Not going to be too difficult to do. And so I'm just going to tidy up, and the next time, possibly the next time I come down, will be with the electrician. Maybe go to Itchenau as we've done before, tie up there, and he'll come aboard and we'll finish the job off. So yeah, I've done most of the work. I think it's running the cables really now, which shouldn't be too tricky, and then commissioning it. And the last thing is just to kind of put the got to make another bracket for the tiller to accommodate a slightly different position for the drive unit, and a hole in the deck as and seat, cockpit seat. Yeah, so that's really it. So hopefully then it'll all be finished. Here I am, a few days after the main, installation of some of the main components. I've had a chat with my electrician. We're pretty good with where I've got to. He's going to come down to Itchenau today to meet me, and we're going to do the rest of it. In the meantime, I have been doing a little bit of work. So I've actually used the original bracket on the tiller. I had thought I was going to have to buy another one. In fact, I did go and buy another one, but I just, I was getting myself a bit confused. I realised that in fact I could just move the existing bracket back about 2 centimetres, which I've now done. I've just epoxied the bolts in place. So I've got to make sure that those aren't, at the moment they're not doing any work, because they look as if they're tight, but they're not, because I don't want to pull them out prematurely. Got to wait till they're really hardened before I do that. And the other one I've been doing, the big one this morning, was to make the hole for the new socket for the actual thrust motor, or whatever you call it, the kind of the main arm that drives the tiller. So nice little tidy little socket goes in there. I had to make sure that it was all lined up with exactly the right measurements, which I did mostly last week, and then hopefully you'll be able to see down here there's a block of wood I had to put in, epoxied in this morning, so that when I drilled down, the bottom of the socket here sits inside that and is epoxied into there, so it's really, really secure. So it's all in place now. Hopefully it will be secure enough for some testing today, even though, you know, it really ought to be left a bit longer to harden. But yeah, it should be fine. It should be fine. So that's where I'm at the moment, and I'm going to be setting off in an hour or two when I've done a bit more work, because I kind of work on board sometimes. I'm going to be heading off to Itchenor. But yeah, so it's okay. It's all going okay, I think, and we'll speak a bit later. So a bit of just a brief summary. It's been a pretty windy day. I managed to get to Itchenor. Took 3 attempts to get the boat alongside into a 20-knot broadside breeze, so it was quite tricky, and I got some help at the end, but it was fine. Electrician came aboard, finished the job. So although I haven't got it connected up at the moment, you know, the power socket is tidily away in the corner there. The old pin and attachment for the tiller is in place with a new, it's just been put with a new positioning bolts, and the old system still seems to be happy running on that, although it's a bit off centre from the old socket, but the new one is absolutely exactly as it should be now, lined up, and although it's all undercover there, the contest and the chart plotter and the new Tiller Pilot headings are all really, really close to each other, and so yeah, it seems to be absolutely spot on, which is good news. So I'm happy. I've got to really properly test it. It was, as I say, very breezy. Coming back, I did manually steer. I did try initially to just put it on auto, but somehow didn't quite, something didn't quite happen there. When I got back on the mooring, I tested it, seemed to be working okay. So, I've got to properly test it. It does look as if it's all linked up and working. So, yeah, I'll give you a bit more of a report another time, perhaps.